They bound them with their coats and their hosen and their hats and their other garments, and were cast in the midst of the fiery furnace. So the king came and bound them up and tied them up so there'd be no way for them to get out. He wanted to make sure. See, this king was mad. He was furious. Why? Because they made a choice to choose God instead of him. Who is this God? They said, I'll show you and your God. So he bound them up tight in all their clothes. Now you can even imagine, I'm sweating like bullets up here, and I'm wearing a 3/4 length sleeve. But you could just imagine just being wrapped up in all these clothes and then being thrown into this fiery furnace. And just in case we don't understand, just in case we didn't get the picture, see, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but words are there to draw a picture. So any good storyteller uses words to be able to draw a picture in your mind. So as we close our eyes this morning, we see the picture being drawn. We see that fiery furnace before us. And we can see these Hebrew boys being wrapped up in their cloaks and their hosen and everything that they had, being bound up so they couldn't move, so much so they had to be thrown into the fire. I wonder if we could take a trip this morning and transport ourselves to the mouth of that fiery furnace. I wonder if we could feel the heat. Of course, we can't stand too close, because you know what happened to those who stood close. We can't stand too close, but even from a distance, I wonder if we could feel the heat on our face. I wonder if we can smell death approaching. For you see, they had no guarantee that if they went through the fiery trial that they would come out alive. There was no guarantee that if they went into the flames that they would ever make it out. They had no guarantee, and they themselves said, listen, our God is able to deliver us. But they didn't say he would. They only said he would deliver us out of the hand of the king. Right. So there was no certainty. There was no definitive as to what would happen to these Hebrew men when they went into the fire. Not even so much so, but being bound in their cloaks and everything they had. The enemy tried to bind them up with everything that he could to keep them from fighting back, to keep them from getting loose, to keep them from doing anything. They could do nothing, for they were bound. And if we didn't believe that the fire was hot, it was hot enough on a regular day, I'm sure, but now that heat was tossed up 7 times higher. And the king commanded that the mighty men, and not just any mighty men, but the most mighty men. So in other words, the best that the king had. The best men, the strongest, the most powerful men that the king had. Those are the ones he called to bind them up. So often the world would throw its best at us to keep us bound, to shut our mouths, to keep us silent so that we won't fight, to keep us silent so that we won't utter anything else, to keep us bound so that we can't say a word. Bound by attitudes and bound by what people think of us, bound by regulations, bound by the fear of not wanting to rock the boat, bound by the fear of not wanting to lose our jobs or lose our position. The world will bind us up in the best that they have in an effort to silence us. They'll come with the heavy hitters. And if fear itself doesn't take us out, then they'll bind us with everything that they can find to shut us up. But the story doesn't end there. You see, when these men were cast into the fire, when they were cast in the fire was so hot that the men that threw them in the flames were dead. Listen, this happened with such a quickness that the men didn't have time to prepare. Because remember, it was said that if you don't bow, then right away that same hour we're going to throw you in the furnace. So the men that were going to throw them in the furnace didn't have time to prepare. They didn't have time to ready themselves and get their fire gloves on and their fire suit and prepare themselves. They didn't have time to prepare themselves, but they threw these men, and when they threw, they lost their lives. Now imagine seeing this whole thing unfold from the Hebrew boys' perspective. Because here you are being thrown in this fiery furnace, and the very men that have thrown in the fire furnace are dead, slain on the ground. Imagine that. The very men that were there to throw you in the fiery furnace are laying dead on the ground. Church, the very situation that the Lord has allowed us to come through will destroy others. It'll be destruction for others, but will be deliverance for us. That fiery furnace was meant to destroy. It was meant to bind. It was meant to eat them up. But it destroyed everyone else that came close. See, the trial that you go through is specifically designed for you. And it doesn't matter how hot the fire is turned up. It doesn't matter how much they jack up the heat. But that fiery furnace, that trial, that situation that's got you so bound, got you so entangled, so much so that it seems that there's no way out. That very furnace is meant to bring your deliverance. That very trial, the same trial that has killed many a man, is meant to give you your deliverance. Church, so many mighty men have been fallen and slain by Satan. Why? Because somewhere along the way they chose to put their trust in themselves and in their own ability, instead to put their trust in God. See, these were mighty men and strong men that threw them in the furnace. And so and the enemy chose them because they were mighty and strong. But as strong as they were, they could not withstand the flames that were coming to them. The Lord sometimes would bring us to some situations that we just don't understand. We feel as if there's no way out. As if there's no hope to get out of our hands, our feet, everything is bound, and we feel as if there's no way out. But see, the key for these Hebrew boys, the key was even in the midst of the fire. In the midst of the fire. In the midst of the fire, somebody showed up. See, the people who were watching on the outside didn't understand what was happening on. Even the king had to wax his eyes a little bit. Maybe he thought he needed glasses. He asked somebody, listen, I think I'm seeing things. I think I'm seeing things here. Didn't we throw 3 into the fire? And wait a minute, when we threw them into the fire, they were bound. They couldn't move. They couldn't walk. They couldn't do anything. I know I'm not going crazy. So someone help me out here, because I know I'm not going crazy. We bound up those men, and I had my mighty men bind them up and throw them in that fire, and they're dead. There's the evidence right there. So what's going on? What's happening here? Because I see, not only do I see 3 men, I see 4, and the 4th looks like the Son of God, and the 4th is moving around, and the 4th is moving. They're moving around. They're free. They're loose in the fire. Why were they loosed in the fire? Why? Because they made a choice. But their choice was to praise. Their choice was to praise. See, what they were doing when they made that declaration to the king, what they were doing was saying, King, listen, we respect you. We give you all the reverence that is due. But we give reverence to one that is higher, that is greater than you. See, we've been saying it, church, all over and over. But when we pray, the Lord hearkens unto our ear. But when we praise, He shows up in the fire right there with us. The Lord is right there in the fire. But it's only when we get into the place where the fire is the hottest, when we get in the midst of the fiery furnace, it's only then, and only then, that the Lord will loose us. As we can see the men, when they saw the other one said, they said, listen, we renege. Take us out, listen, we'll bow, we'll do whatever it takes. They could have reneged. But when they were in the fire, when they stood up and they said, oh King, doesn't matter what you do to us, it doesn't matter how you come and buffet us, but we're still going to stand, we're still going to praise, we're still going to give worship to the one true God. It was only when they were in the midst of that situation, in the midst of the fire furnace, that the Lord loosed them. We sang the song this morning, praise is what I do when I want to be close to you. Why? Because when we pray, we get the Lord's attention, and He inclines His ear to us. But when we